Good afternoon, welcome to this video, this cooking instructional video. I've been asked by Loughborough University to make a video cooking a traditional Bangladeshi dish and the memories that are evoked by that dish for this year's season of Bangla Drama. Now, as you all know, due to COVID, the season of Bangla Drama live performances just could not be held this year, so everything's had to shift online, including this video. I hope you enjoy. So today I will be making one of the most traditional dishes I know, which is Hidol Satni or Hidol Borta, depending on what part of Bangladesh you're from. Satni and Borta practically mean the same thing. The Hidol Satni, Hidol, is the name of this fish, not the fish itself, but what's done with the fish. So the fish itself is really typical, it's a small footy mas from Bangladesh, footy fish from Bangladesh. It resembles, it's almost like a goldfish. So similar size, similar shape. Now the fish themselves are preserved by, and I know this is going to sound pretty disgusting, but they're packed very tightly into bamboo, and they're allowed to rot for a period until they end up looking something like this. I've taken these out. These have been sent over specifically from Bangladesh, right? And I've taken over. These have been sent over, so I've taken some out of my packaging. And what I'm going to do is, if you can see the Hidol there, right? So I'm going to soak these. I'm going to wash these in boiling water. So I've got some Hidol there. I'm going to throw some water in there very gently and let that clean any bacteria or any other gunk off it that I need to do. Before I continue with the explanation of the dish, let me run you very, very briefly through the various ingredients that are required to make Hidol Satni and Hidol Borta. Of course, you've got the Hidol, which is now being soaked in boiling water just to get it clean. You've got salt. Now, despite the fact that Hidol is very salty, by the time it's gone through the whole washing and cooking process, it tends to lose some of that salt, so you need to add a little bit more on, right? You've got green chilies here, we've got mustard seeds here, we've got a tiny little bit of coriander, yeah? We've got the onion here. Now, you can use white onion. I personally prefer to use red, not for the colour, simply because it gives a little bit of a better taste. And in Bangladesh itself, they actually use red onions because red onions are cheaper than the white ones. Okay. Over here I've got some garlic which I need to roast. So, and let me explain before anything else. The garlic, over here I've got chili powder. I'm going to roast the chili powder, dry roast it. I'm going to grill the garlic on an open flame, and I've got mustard seeds here. I'm going to roast the mustard seeds as well. And the onions themselves, I'm actually going to just very, very lightly fry them in a frying pan, so it takes off the edge, the rawness of the onion. Okay, so these are my basic ingredients that I need to put together Hidol Satni. The reason I'm making Hidol Satni is a very simple one. When I think of Bangladesh, I think of Hidol. I think of shutki. Shutki is a generic term for any type of preserved, dried, salted, fermented fish, and it's only fish. There is no such thing as beef jerky, beef hutki, or chicken hutki. It's just hutki is specifically for fish that's been preserved in one form or another. So the story that's attached to this dish, I mean, there are hundreds of stories I could tell you, but for me, this is home. This is when our parents came over here. We were very poor, very, very working class, and sometimes it's things like this. The thing is, when we first got here, bear in mind there were very, very few Asian grocery stores here in London or in the UK, and even less that had Hidol or hutki. So when we got it, it was a treat for us. In Bangladesh, Hidol is really the working class, poor, lower classes, and I don't believe in a class system, but it's the food of the poorer classes, simply because meat in Bangladesh costs a lot more than dried and preserved fish does. Where did I learn to make this dish? It's a very, very simple dish to make, so really it's not rocket science. After having observed many, many mothers, and the thing about Bangladeshi culture is traditionally it is the woman of the house that cooks. Women are expected to be the feeders, the cooks, the maids, the cleaners, whereas men are expected to go out into the field and work and do the physical manual stuff. So really, I would say one simple answer. Where did I learn to cook this dish? I learned to cook it from my mother. Right? There have been small changes made along the way from the original recipe, but 95% of it is still pretty much intact. My mother taught me to make this dish. Now, the biggest difference between my cooking today and the traditional way to make this in Bangladesh is we are fortunate to live in the 21st century and we have a blender, a beautiful Magimix blender, which I'm going to throw all of my ingredients into, and that will do its Magimix. Okay? In Bangladesh, however, because of the lack of food processors, I mean, they are getting them more now in the towns and stuff, but the traditional way to make it is they have a huge stone slab, and they have a huge stone rolling pin, and you'll see often the women will sit there on the floor, on top of a tiny little stool, and they will literally just sit there for a while, for as long as it takes, and just flatten the absolute hell out of these ingredients. Can I remember eating this as a child? Yes, for me, this when I smell hudki, when I taste hudki, I think of myself as a child running around barefoot in muddy fields and through long grass. So it is very, very nostalgic for me. It evokes a huge amount of emotion for me, and yes, it absolutely does take me back to my childhood. So now, to start our cooking, we need to initially roast all of the ingredients that are required. Well, not all the ingredients, but all the ingredients that need roasting. My first one that I'm going to start with, so I've got here, my first one I'm going to start with is the Hidol. And if you look in front of me, I've got a preheated pan, a dry pan, no oil attached to it. And with this fork, I'm going to take out undisturbed all the Hidol that I've soaked before in boiling water to get rid of the gunk and any bacteria and all the dirt that comes associated with this rotting fish. And I'm going to throw that fish into the pan, and absolutely roast it, dry roast it until it's completely disintegrated into sort of minced fish. And there we have finally our finished product that we need, which is the dried roasted Hidol fish that is now completely cooked. It's pretty crispy. So for any of you that have ever had roast duck, it's it's very similar in looks to the roast duck that you have with the pancakes. Okay, I mean, it smells completely different, but it does look very similar to roast duck. Okay. And the next thing to put into our frying pan to give it a quick dry roast, literally just to soften up the rawness of the onion itself, is my chopped red onion. It doesn't need to be so finely chopped, and the simple reason for that is because it will all eventually end up in the blender, and it will be mashed to a pulp. So don't worry too much about how it looks when you cut it. And by roasting this stuff, you literally want it in there for a couple of minutes just to take the edge off the sharpness, the rawness of the onions. next thing that I'm going to put into my frying pan to give it a quick roast are the mustard seeds. Mustard seeds are lovely in flavour. They add a little bit of crunch to the thing itself. However, because the mustard seeds will eventually pop once they're roasted, you need to put a little cover on them just to stop them from, you know, escaping into the rest of your kitchen. The next thing that I'm going to roast in my dry pan is the chili powder. Now, normally you wouldn't, in Bangladesh, they wouldn't roast the chili powder. And by roasting, I mean literally for a few seconds on the heat. Okay, so we've roasted the chili powder. And normally speaking, in Bangladesh, the women tend not to bother to roast the chili powder. However, I've found that by giving it a tiny little, I mean, we're talking like a 10-second roast here on a hot in a hot pan. I've found that you take away the rawness of the actual powder itself. However, it is a very, very volatile thing to do, and the aroma and the smell and the fragrance of the chili powder burning on a roasting in a pan really is enough to make you cough. So both my camera crew and myself, we've had to stop filming for a brief few seconds just to regain our posture again. But everything is good. We've opened the doors and the windows, so now we are happy to continue. So now, after having prepared all of my ingredients, so roasting the various things that need the dry roasting, burning the various things that need burning, and so I've got the mustard seed here. If you look carefully in my Magi Mix blender, I've already got the dried Hidol / roast duck in there, so that's ready to go. Now, if what I'm going to do is in there I'm going to add. The thing about Bengali cooking, and I've tried to explain this to a few people, there are no specific measurements. We have this beautiful word called antaz, and antaz literally translates to guesstimate. So you would guess how much you would put in, and the levels are perfected after many years of practicing. But you can vary the ingredients, the measurements of ingredients. So if you like your borta runny, you can have more onions. If you like it spicy, you can have more chili powder. You can have, if you like it more pungent, you can add more Hidol to it. Okay, so now in there I've got my Hidol. I'm going to throw in a little bit of onion in there. I'm not going to go too crazy initially because I don't know how much onion I actually need for the amount of Hidol I've got in there. Actually, let's take a bit more out there. That should do something. This is more than enough green chilies in there, right? Now, I know that people will think, right, hang on, why are you putting green chilies in? Because you've already got the chili powder. Simply, green chilies not only contain the spice, but they also have flavour to them, and that's something that even chili powder can't offer, right? So I'm going to throw in, I'm going to go crazy today. I'm going to throw in a bit more. I'm going to throw in all of my mustard seeds because this really, in the greater scheme of things, this isn't a huge amount, right? So they can go in there nicely. I'm going to throw in those roasted garlic that I did earlier on, right? Even with the skin on, I don't care. It can go in because it's all going to get mashed to a pulp in a second anyway. And then I've got some salt in there. Throw that in there, lovely. And then that is it. So, oh yes, I've got some coriander over here. I'm going to wait with the coriander until I've blended it a little bit first. I've got a little bit more chili powder left, and I've got some onions left that I'm going to use if I need to. Now, my cover for this, and thank God they've got safety covers for these things. There you go. Now, very, very simple. So now, we've still got a long way to go, but I'm just going to show you very briefly, if I can. That's the kind of mix that you want. Eventually, I will add a little bit of water to that, boiling water, just a few drops, just to get it a little bit more runny, and so it flows better with the mix. I'm going to carry on mixing. Please join us again once I'm done. And with our mix finally completed and blended to an absolute pulp, this is what it should look like. So let me just take this out very, very quickly, and then we're going to pour it all gently into there, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is Hidol chutney. So, as part of this video, I've been asked, and it's not just about the food, it's not just about the cooking, it really is more, it's equally to do with the memories that are associated with the food. Right, so I've been asked a set of questions that I have to answer. One of them being, can I remember eating this as a child? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. I remember eating it as a child in this country. However, I do not remember eating it as a child in Bangladesh, simply for the reason that I was 5 years old when I came to the UK. So pretty much anything before then is a bit of a blur. Okay, so now, what does the smell of the cooking remind me of? The smell of the cooking it's home. It's about as simple as it gets. The smell of hudki is home and is mum. I mean, and it's not just my mum, it's your mum, it's pretty much everybody's Bengali mum. Yeah. Do I remember eating this? No, again, I don't remember eating this as a child in Bangladesh, simply because I was 2, 3, 4 when I was there. I came here at the age of 5, so really all my memories, my early memories, are after I came to the UK. Would I eat it? When would you eat it? I will eat it every meal I can, if you know. But these days, for the British Bangladeshi community, it's become more of a treat, more of an occasional thing. It's not something that you have in the house every day. A lot of British Bangladeshi women don't want to cook it simply because of the disgusting smell that's associated with the cooking process. Once it's cooked, it smells beautiful, but pre-cooked Hidol absolutely stinks. When would you eat it? Who with? I would eat it whenever I can, and it's best shared with company. So a dinner party, for example, I've got family coming over, I've got in-laws coming over, I've got a dinner party happening with friends. I would eat it then. It's very sad to eat Hidol chutney on your own. It's kind of, because of the memories that are associated with it. I think it's not, for me, it's not comfort food. It's not sustenance food either. It's more of a delicacy. That's the word I was looking for. It's a delicacy, and so really, you need to eat it with others when you're eating Hidol Hidol Borta or Hidol chutney. Okay. Can I share my memories? I can share my memories. In fact, a part of the reason why I keep this traditional dish alive is because it's a way to honour our mothers, and it's also a way to retain those memories that have formed in the early years. Okay, has the recipe changed over time? I would say it has. As I've explained before, the cooking way I cook it now and the way it was cooked in the villages 30, 40, 50 years ago is slightly different. I mean, it's 90%, 95% original recipe, but the way we cook it has changed. For example, we use a blender now, and they don't have blenders in Bangladesh. I roast the onions. Bangladeshi women in villages tend not to roast onions. Okay, so yes, I would say it has evolved. It hasn't changed. It's just evolved to fit the time to suit the times that we're living in today, right? How important is it to pass on this recipe? For me, it's important in the sense that is a Pope Catholic? Am I a Bangladeshi? Am I a Bengali? That's how important it is. It is vital for me to pass this on, because with it comes so much history. The struggles that our people faced when we first came to the UK. The struggles of the poorer classes in Bangladesh, the working classes in Bangladesh, are all associated with Hidol. The fact that for me one of the most ironic things is it's a poor man's dish, but which is one of the reasons why a lot of the wealthier classes will refuse to eat it as a kind of a snobbery thing. However, you find that for those that have been raised right, it doesn't matter how much money they have, or how well, how affluent they are, or how successful they are in life. Gurei Fesaya, they'll always revert back to that Hidal Satni, and it will always create and evoke those childhood memories within them. Okay, so that's, for me, if I had children, I would teach them without fail to learn, to make Hidal Satni the traditional way. What is my favourite thing about sharing food with family, friends and community? For me, the best thing about sharing food, and this is one of the reasons why I do this annual Bangladeshi dinner party, is simply to create a memorable life. Create memories, share love, share happiness. There's so much misery and sadness and poverty and famine and all the other nonsense going on in the world that I think it's important to try and have those moments where we are happy, where we are, joyous, and where we are. And it's not just about stuffing our faces. It's not about gluttony. It's about enjoying good company, good conversation, with good food. This is me, Salam Jones, with my video on Hidal Satni for Loughborough University for the coming season of Bangla Drama. I hope you've all enjoyed watching this video, and I hope you all are tempted to try to make this dish in your own homes. Thank you very much for watching. Assalamu alaikum to everyone.